And welcome back to Prep Recruiting Insider. This is PRI, and we're here at Moe's Pizza on the West Bank, where Italians do it better. I'm the head coach for PRI, Rick Gailey, and we are here with our Prep Recruiting Insider, Renee Nato. And we are so fortunate today to be joined by Coach Scott Bairnsfather of the Archbishop Shaw Eagles, one of our best guests ever. Not to put any pressure on you, Scott, but you got to bring your A game today.
Always do, Rick.
Thanks for being here today with us, Scott.
Scott, you've been coaching a long time, and almost 20 years as a head coach. And you encounter a lot of problems now, or challenges with young guys that you didn't have before. Social media. Sometimes guys have distractions and stuff. What's the biggest challenge for you as a head coach now that you didn't have maybe 20 years ago?
I think the biggest challenge I think we face now in coaching is the kids know more than me about what's going on in the world. I'm older now. I don't know a whole lot. If I need to know what's happening in recruiting and what's happening with this kid, what's happening with that, I go ask them. They have the world at their fingertips, and it does become a challenge for some of the coaches, for some guys like me to keep up. If I have a computer issue, if I have any type of issue, I got to go find them. Where I used to be the one years ago telling, look, you have to do this, you have to do this. Now they tell me, Coach, this happened here, and this happened here. And I think that is it's a little bit challenging. The mindset for them is a little bit different than it used to be when they come in. They're not usually engaged in athletics in a work environment like they get into in high school. It's a little bit different. There's a lot of specialized coaching going on out there right now. As people have probably talked to you guys about, they have individual defensive back coaches, and they do speed training with this guy, and they do some other training with this guy, and then they got to come see a head coach in high school that may be doing something different. And I know that's kind of the same in a lot of sports, and basketball and baseball as well. So those are some of the new challenges that we face. Sometimes I long for some of the old challenges that we had years ago.
But the challenges for you are the same. The fundamentals of the game are still the same, and getting the players to execute the fundamentals. That's why you don't have time for all this other stuff, because your fundamentals haven't changed.
When you put all that stuff aside and you turn on your film from the game or from practice, it's who you're blocking, who you're not blocking, who you're tackling, and who you're not tackling. That has never changed, and it probably never will change, as long as football stays the way it is. If you're blocking and tackling, you can win some games. If you're not blocking and you can't make tackles, you can have trouble.
You're a head coach, and you watch both sides, offense and defense, but your brother coaches with you, Brian, and it was legend that he had some of the best pair of hands on the West Bank as a receiver. What's your offensive philosophy with you and Brian as the offensive coaches?
Well, in the evolution of Brian Bairnsfather, who played receiver, unbeknownst to maybe most people in high school, and he actually led the school in receptions per year for a long time. And he was all district. In fact, I was all district. You're going to have Ron on. We were all on the same all district team together when we played. And then, lo and behold, he becomes an offensive line coach for his entire career. He never coaches, literally never coaches a skill spot. So he went from, please throw me the ball, to, I don't want you ever to throw, let's just run. So his whole mindset of football changed from when he played to when he started coaching, where, look, let's just block and run. Don't throw a pass if you don't have to. Now when he was in high school, man, he'd not get me the ball enough. So
it's amazing what we end up with in the coaching profession, and that so much of what we do early determines what we become later. A good friend of mine, Mike Sherman, spent all the years in college football in the NFL. Now he's coaching high school up in Cape Cod. And his wife told him, well, all those other things you did have prepared you for what you're doing now.
Right. All the money he made for the Miami Dolphins and wherever else he was at, now he has enough money to go back and coach high school.
That's exactly right. Another Ryan Tannehill victim, by the way.
Yeah. He had Ryan Tannehill at Texas A&M.
Yes.
And then
he got Sherman twice, and he's getting ready to get another staff.
That's right.
Talk about your offensive evolution, though. You talked about your brothers, because you were one of the first coaches when you were at Holy Cross to go to full-time shotgun spread type stuff.
We were one of the first in the city to start doing it full-time. People started delving into it a little bit back in the the late 90s, and we kind of went to it full time. I ended up with a couple of good receivers, Gino Gambaluca being one of them, Jerome Landry, who played at 2A, being another one, and I had a really good quarterback, a couple of good quarterbacks, and Sean Santos ended up being a kid that I started in 9th grade, the same offense. And people had trouble catching up to us. It was, they didn't know what to do. They didn't know the blitzes, not the blitzes, to play back off of us. So it gave us an advantage, mostly in a running game, because we started getting 3-man fronts a lot, and we kind of, as coaches, sitting in the office going, man, this is easy. We throw the ball around a little bit. At the end of the game, we start running it because they're in an odd front and nobody's up on the line. And then as time went on, it kind of evolved into, well, now people are starting to catch up to you a little bit. We're starting to get a little more pressure than we got before. They're not backing off like they used to. And then it kind of started, that moved into the quarterback running out of spread. And as Rich Rodriguez says, the power spread, where you spread them out and try to run the ball inside and try to run a quarterback, and then which we did a bunch last year when when we had Matt Keller and Trey Regis, where we can either or could carry the ball at any time. That's kind of what that has evolved into. Believe me, I'm like you. You don't ever have to throw a pass. Hey, I'd rather not either, but some points in life when the X is on the other side, a little bit better than the O's on your side, you need to throw a ball, and try to get some yards in chunks and say, try to get your running backs a little break from getting pounded on a little bit, so that's kind of where we're at right now. We're going to start probably throwing a little bit more than we're accustomed to.
Coaching is great in this area, Scott, and we were talking off the air that Shaw has produced 12, 13 guys who have gone on to the NFL.
Yep.
But the city of New Orleans and the metro area, every year there's 35, 36, 38 guys who wind up on NFL rosters from the metro area. Why is this such a fertile area for NFL and talent?
I think because it's the city, I believe, has remained a vastly competitive high school football area. So not just in high school. So these are kids that are good when they're 8, 9, and 10 years old and they're playing competitive football, which you don't see. If you traveled around, you're not going to see that much competitive young football in some of these states. I talk to high school coaches all the time, and they'll say, well, South Carolina, they put out a few good players, but as a whole, no. The city of New Orleans is so fertile with talent in the metro area that if they get pretty good coaching, which there is in both private and public schools around here, there's pretty good coaching and there's competition and there's status in that for these kids. They're going to work as hard as they can. They're going to get coached as hard as they can. They're going to get recognized because of the people that played before them. They're going to get a chance to be shown. In 4 years, they go to a good program in college, and in 4 years, all of a sudden, they become a draft pick, and you never thought they would be. And some guys, man, that kid, boy, he's really had a good college career. Man, he's a 5th-round pick, or he's a 2nd-round pick. I didn't think he was that good because they're so good around here, talent-wise, in this local, close area, that guys surprise you. And Torrey James, when I coached Torrey James in high school, he played in the NFL 10 years. I never thought he would be a draft pick when he left here. I thought he'd have a pretty decent college career. All of a sudden, I'm getting phone calls when Torrey's a senior at LSU asking me if I can talk to him about somebody being their agent. And I said, Torrey? And then the next thing I know, I'm hearing he's graded in the 2nd or 3rd round. I said, wow, I must have did a good job with him when he was in high school.
That's Scott Bairnsfather, the head coach of the Shaw Eagles. He is the Shaw Eagles right there. Born, bred, raised, everything to do with Archbishop Shaw football. And when we come back, we're going to meet some of his great players. This is Prep Recruiting Insider, PRI.